Right now, on screens around the world, Pierce Brosnan is facing the unimaginable. At 71 years old, the man we've known as James Bond is grappling with news that feels like a scene ripped straight out of a thriller. Only this time, there's no stunt double and no escape. In hushed tones and trembling voices, fans everywhere ask, what comes next? This is not a mission. It is a farewell, and it carries the weight of a life defined by both epic triumphs and heartbreaking loss. That it wasn't supposed to be like this. Pierce, with his steady gaze and trademark charm, built a life of resilience and reinvention. Born in a small Irish town with no more inheritance than a name and a dream, he learned early how to navigate absence and uncertainty. Without a father's face in his childhood memories, he became an observer, a listener, and eventually, the polished hero leading legions of fans on screen. From the gritty backstreets of South London to the glamour of MGM premieres, his journey was a testament to how courage can turn an outsider into an icon. But life, as anyone who has lost knows, can be crueler than any script. In 1991, as he prepared for his first outing as the world's most famous spy, tragedy made its entrance. Cassandra Harris, his wife and partner in every sense, waged a brutal fight against ovarian cancer. She faced surgeries that left her fragile, chemotherapy sessions that stripped her of every physical remnant of health. And still, she found the grace to love, to laugh, to cloak Pierce in unwavering support even as her body betrayed her. When she whispered her last words, telling him not to worry, urging dignity in departure, he learned grief in its rawest form. Decades later, that same specter returned with a merciless twist. His daughter Charlotte, a vibrant actress with her mother's spark and her father's steel, fought the same silent killer. 3 years of painful treatments, heroic defiance against her body's betrayal, and still the disease spread. Just weeks after pledging her love at the altar, she slipped away, leaving behind 2 young children and a heartbroken father who could not save her. The sorrow of one generation echoed into the next, creating a cycle of mourning that no edge-of-your-seat thriller could ever prepare you for. Now, as Pierce stands beneath the weight of a new announcement, a diagnosis that forces him to stare down history's cruel repetition, he confronts a pain no one wants to witness. The man who dared to leap from Swiss dams, who performed 90% of his own stunts, who embodied a fantasy of fearlessness, is compelled to offer an act of unimaginable courage, saying goodbye. He knows the stakes better than most. He's witnessed how quickly script and reality can blur, leaving no rewind, no alternate ending. In today's story, we'll walk through the chapters of Pierce's life, how a boy born into absence became the face of an era, how love shaped his journey, and how unthinkable loss has become, tragically, a familiar turn. We'll trace his ascent from art student to stage actor, from TV breakout to 5-time Bond legend. We'll relearn the names of those who walked beside him, Cassandra, Charlotte, and discover how their battles with a silent killer transformed Pierce from a performer into an ambassador for hope. And finally, we'll arrive at now, the moment he braces himself once more to endure the worst, a final goodbye before a world he captivated for decades. Every pause in his sentence today echoes with memory. Every falter in his voice suggests a man who has tried to steel himself, yet feels fear biting at his heart. But if history taught us anything, it's that Pierce Brosnan can transform adversity into action. He channeled his anguish into advocacy, turning his platform into a beacon for early detection and compassion. He walked beside cancer survivors and embraced the parents of those he lost, ensuring that every tear shed by his family inspired campaigns that save lives. Yet no advocacy can fully erase the ache of farewell. So when Pierce pronounces these words we'll soon hear for the first time. When he utters the phrase that seals this chapter, we will all lean in. We will listen, we will mourn, we will honor. Because to witness James Bond's goodbye is to understand that even the greatest heroes are human. Their final curtain isn't choreographed. It isn't subject to a director's cut. It arrives unannounced, demanding our rawest emotions, and reminding us that love and loss are the truest measure of a life well lived. Stay with us as we navigate this emotional landscape. We will move carefully, treating each moment with the reverence it deserves. We will explore how Pierce found strength in solitude and how he discovered purpose amid pain. We will reflect on the bonds that defined him and on the unbreakable spirit that keeps him moving forward. By the end of this journey, you'll understand not just the announcement itself, but the 70-plus years of relentless devotion, triumph, and grief that led to this farewell. Because to know Pierce Brosnan's goodbye is to witness the soul of a man who became a legend and who now stands on the precipice of his most personal mission yet. From the moment he arrived in London as a teenager, everything felt magnified for Pierce. The gray skies above felt heavier than those in rural Ireland, and every crowded street corner seemed to whisper that he did not belong. Yet even then, a quiet determination pulsed beneath his surface. He was not content to drift. He would carve his own path. At 16, he dropped out of school and enrolled in St. Martin's School of Art, clutching nothing but a portfolio of sketches and a heart brimming with possibility. The campus was a crucible of talent and privilege. Students from wealthy families discussed gallery openings and summer residencies, while he scrawled charcoal studies on scraps of paper, always aware of how out of step he felt. Surviving on toast and tea, he asked himself every day why he persisted. The answer was simple. Art gave him a language he'd never had before, a way to translate pain into purpose. Then came the night that changed everything. In a dusty rehearsal room in South London, he stumbled across a troupe of theater students practicing a fire-eating routine. Normally, he would have stepped back and watched in silence. Instead, something stirred deep inside him. He approached the performer, asked if he could try. With a shrug and a nod, the artist handed him a torch. The moment Pierce took that flame in his hand, he felt a surge of electricity. Fear and exhilaration collided in his chest. The group invited him to join, not as a spectator, but as one of their own. That impulse, born of curiosity and courage, planted a seed that would grow into a lifelong passion for performance. From there, his trajectory accelerated. 3 years at the Drama Centre London challenged him like nothing before. The instructors broke students down to rebuild them. More than half of each class dropped out, defeated by the grueling routines and relentless critiques. But Pierce thrived in that crucible. He studied Shakespeare with exacting precision, practiced the silent expressiveness of mime, and learned to temper raw impulse with disciplined technique. Each day, he pushed himself to a new limit, sometimes collapsing from exhaustion, other times exhilarated by the sense that he was truly alive. His relentless drive caught the eye of casting directors, and in 1976, he won his first stage role in Wait Until Dark, creating an unsettling character that both fascinated and unnerved audiences. Opportunity arrived on film in 1980 with 2 fleeting roles that proved pivotal. The Mirror Cracked cast him opposite Elizabeth Taylor for barely 30 seconds, earning him £50 and a moment on screen that set his ambitions ablaze. Within weeks, he appeared in The Long Good Friday alongside Helen Mirren and Bob Hoskins. Though his role as an IRA character was minor, the film would become a cult classic, and critics began to whisper his name. Still, he remained an outsider, seen but not yet known. Then, in 1982, came Remington Steele. Originally auditioning for a single-scene part as a murder victim, he expected nothing more than a one-off gig. Yet something in his bearing caught the attention of NBC's casting team. They called him back for a second reading, not for that small role, but to test him for the lead. The series had been envisioned for a grizzled American con man in his 50s. Here was a 29-year-old Irish actor with an accent unfamiliar to U.S. audiences. Studios balked, fearing he wouldn't connect with viewers. But when Pierce embodied the part, cool, suave, effortlessly charming, they saw a star in the making. On October 1, 1982, Remington Steele premiered to 15.6 million viewers, instantly becoming NBC's second highest-rated new series of the season. Success arrived with caveats. As Steele's ratings soared, critics began speculating about his potential as the next James Bond. By 1983, Entertainment Weekly had called him the most Bond-like actor since Sean Connery, and Ian Fleming's widow publicly praised his resemblance to her husband's creation. Yet fate intervened. Bound by his contract to Steele, he could not pursue the coveted 007 role when producer Albert "Cubby" Broccoli extended the offer. The show's unexpected cancellation in 1986 seemed like liberation. Yet NBC reversed course days later as rumors about Bond swirled. His contract tied him to Steele, and Bond slipped away to Timothy Dalton. That twist of irony, his own success becoming the barrier to a dream, would teach Pierce an early lesson in the bittersweet nature of fame. Still, Pierce transformed disappointment into momentum. Over the next 8 years, he chose roles that showcased his range, from Cold War thrillers like The Fourth Protocol to The Eerie Nomads, where he explored supernatural shadows. Even Diet Coke commercials carried a hint of spy allure, gently teasing the world with what might have been. Through it all, he carried the memory of Cassandra's encouragement, her belief in his talent stronger than any inward doubt. With every performance, he edged closer to the moment that would redefine his life. Then, in 1994, after more than a decade of setbacks and perseverance, the call arrived one evening in South Kensington. Pierce answered, expecting another audition notice or a note about an upcoming independent project. Instead, a familiar voice spoke, Albert "Cubby" Broccoli, the legendary producer of James Bond films. He congratulated Pierce on being chosen as the next 007. In that electrifying moment, the boy who'd once watched Goldfinger in a makeshift cinema in Scotland became the man who would carry Bond into a new era. He felt a surge of triumph, relief, and a deep, resonant gratitude, especially toward Cassandra, his wife, whose unwavering belief had lit his way. Their love story had begun years earlier, on a quiet winter's night, when Cassandra Harris, herself an actress and former Bond girl, saw something in Pierce's performances that few others did. She was drawn to his intensity, the way he could project sorrow, joy, and danger with equal conviction. They married in 1980, surrounded by close friends and family, forging a bond that would become both his refuge and his greatest inspiration. For Cassandra, life's uncertainties faded whenever she was by Pierce's side. For Pierce, she was a steady beacon, encouraging him to seize every opportunity, to trust in his talent, and to never forget the struggles that shaped his resilience. But just as his career reached its apex, tragedy struck. Shortly after the exhilaration of filming GoldenEye, Cassandra received devastating news: ovarian cancer. The diagnosis felt like a betrayal. Cancer was the silent adversary that had claimed 2 generations of Pierce's wife's family. It came with surgical scars, the searing pain of chemotherapy, and the relentless fear that every dawn could be her last. Yet Cassandra faced each day with grace and defiance. She continued to support Pierce on set, offering him courage when scenes demanded his peak performance, masking her own agony behind a proud smile. Pierce's world narrowed to hospital corridors, whispered updates, and the hushed prayers of loved ones. He stood by Cassandra's side through 8 grueling surgeries, countless rounds of chemo, and the ravages of a disease that no script could tame. Late at night, after filming wrapped, he would hold her hand, soothing her tremors and promising that their love would outlast this darkness. She would squeeze his fingers, whispering, "It's just another mission, darling. We'll get through it." And for a while, it seemed they just might. GoldenEye premiered to thunderous acclaim, revitalizing the franchise and propelling Pierce into worldwide stardom. Yet the roar of the audience felt hollow against the steady drip of intravenous pain treatments. Every triumph on the red carpet was tinged with the knowledge that Cassandra's battle continued behind the scenes. Still, Pierce channeled his anguish into his work, infusing Bond with both swagger and vulnerability, creating a hero who could feel broken and powerful at once. In late 1991, Cassandra's fight reached its painful crescendo. Surrounded by her family, with Pierce and their son Sean by her side, she breathed her last. In her final hours, she offered him reassurance, imploring him to live fully and to honor her memory by embracing life's joys. Then she slipped away, leaving Pierce shattered. He had portrayed fearlessness for audiences worldwide, yet grief knocked him to his knees. There was no Bond theme to underscore the moment, no director calling cut to ease his pain. It was real, raw, and irreversible. In the months that followed, Pierce withdrew from the public eye. He sold his London home, seeking solitude in the Irish countryside and in quiet reflection. Yet even in his withdrawal, Cassandra's spirit guided him. He realized he could turn his loss into purpose. He partnered with ovarian cancer charities, lending his voice to early detection campaigns, visiting clinics, and sharing Cassandra's story with a sincerity that moved thousands. His fame, once a platform for cinematic thrills, now became a megaphone for hope and awareness. As he embraced advocacy, Pierce found unexpected strength. Each hospital visit, each survivor's thanks, steeled him for the next scene of his life. He threw himself into Bond sequels, Tomorrow Never Dies, and The World Is Not Enough, infusing 007 with a deeper emotional texture. Audiences connected with this Bond who carried grief beneath his tuxedo, who fought villains with a fierce empathy born from personal loss. Reviewers noted the shift. Pierce's Bond was more human, more relatable, a hero whose vulnerabilities made him even more compelling. Behind the scenes, he met Keely Shea Smith, a journalist with a warm laugh and an unflinching kindness. She was drawn to Pierce not as a star, but as a man in mourning, someone whose pain revealed layers of compassion and humility. Their friendship became a lifeline, blossoming into love as they shared stories of loss, resilience, and the simple pleasures that taste sweeter once sorrow has passed. In 2001, they married in a small Irish ceremony, a tribute to Cassandra's roots and the promise of new beginnings. Yet Pierce never forgot Cassandra. Every role he chose, every charity event he attended, carried her memory. He spoke of her with reverence, reminding the world that behind the fictional hero was a man shaped by real sacrifice. And through his advocacy, ovarian cancer survival rates began to climb. More women underwent early screenings, armed with knowledge that might save their lives. Pierce's grief became a catalyst for change, a testament to Cassandra's final wish that he live fully and fight for others. As Bond's global adventures unfolded, Pierce balanced blockbuster shoots with quiet visits to patients, blending the glamour of Hollywood with the gravity of heartfelt service. He lived in two worlds at once, the dazzling sets of Monte Carlo and the hushed oncology wards where hope flickered in the eyes of those he met. Each handshake, each shared tear, reminded him that his greatest role wasn't on screen, but in the lives he touched. Now, as we arrive at the present, we understand that Pierce's greatest tests have been off camera. He has known loss that no screenplay could capture, and through that, he discovered a power far beyond any cinematic superpower, the ability to turn grief into empathy, despair into action. And so, when he prepares to announce his own farewell, we know this will be more than a celebrity headline. It will be the final chapter in a story that has taught millions about love's endurance, sorrow's impact, and the undying courage of a man who once said he would face any danger for those he loved, and who now must confront the hardest mission of all. The day Pierce discovered his beloved wife was facing the unthinkable diagnosis arrived like a cold wave sweeping through his life once more. It began with a routine doctor's appointment, the kind he accompanied her on countless times as she supported others through advocacy events and silent struggles. But this time, the examination room fell silent as the physician held the biopsy results with a solemn expression. For a moment, the world outside ceased to exist. In that weighty pause, Pierce felt a familiar tremor of fear, one he thought he had conquered long ago. Keely Shea Smith, the woman who stood beside him through his darkest hours and brightest triumphs, now sat pale and vulnerable. Her once radiant smile was tempered by exhaustion, and he noticed how the smallest gestures cost her more energy than he had ever witnessed. They spoke in hushed tones about symptoms she had dismissed as fatigue, occasional pain, fleeting discomfort, subtle weight loss. Each anecdote, harmless on its own, took on a haunting resonance when pieced together under the sterile lights of that clinic. When the doctor finally spoke, the words felt surreal. The tests confirmed an early stage of ovarian cancer, the same silent adversary that had stolen both Pierce's wife and daughter years before. The room's atmosphere thickened with dread, but there was no time for disbelief. Pierce reached for Keely's hand, his grip firm and steady, silently promising that they would face this fight together. In that moment, roles reversed. He who had drawn strength from loss now became the pillar she would lean on, her protector and advocate. In the days that followed, Pierce's life transformed into a whirlwind of medical meetings, treatment schedules, and whispered prayer circles. Interviews and filming paused as his agents rearranged commitments, respecting his need for privacy. Paparazzi lenses, once obsessed with premieres and red carpets, now hovered at a cautious distance, capturing occasional glimpses of him walking hand in hand with Keeley to scans and consultations. Fans speculated. Social media erupted with get-well-soon messages, and tabloids tried to fill their pages with unverified rumors. But for Pierce, only one truth mattered. Inside the hospital, Pierce and Keeley navigated a labyrinth of decisions, choosing specialists, reviewing treatment plans, and weighing the balance between aggressive therapy and quality of life. He remembered Cassandra's struggle, the surgeries, the chemo, the moments she craved dignity over synthetic extensions of life. Keeley's preferences echoed that same clarity. She wanted to fight with hope, but also to live with grace. Pierce supported her every step. He held her hand through needle insertions, massaged her aching limbs, and whispered stories of their happiest moments to remind her that love could transcend the pain, while leaning into his own history of loss and survival. Pierce found a renewed sense of purpose. He resumed his role as UNICEF ambassador, channeling fundraising efforts into organizations that provide free screening for underprivileged women. He recorded heartfelt video messages from treatment centers, sharing them online to demystify chemotherapy and dismantle fear. His speeches at charity galas combined celebrity draw with sincere vulnerability. Audiences were moved not just by his star power, but by his authenticity, by the sincerity in his eyes when he urged early detection to save countless lives. Throughout the treatment cycle, Keeley exhibited a courage that both shattered and inspired Pierce. During her toughest days of nausea and fatigue, she remained determined to advocate from her hospital bed, joining phone calls, drafting letters to lawmakers, and welcoming visitors who came bearing flowers and prayers. Pierce watched in awe. He recorded a behind-the-scenes series where he interviewed her about coping strategies and self-care rituals, demonstrating that vulnerability could be a powerful teacher. Their joint videos went viral, resonating with thousands of families navigating similar battles in silence. But beneath the public solidarity, there were quiet moments of fear that Pierce could not share on camera. He wrote nightly journals by the bedside lamp, confessing his worst anxieties, the creeping terror of repeating history, the thought of living on without Keeley, the question of whether he had the strength to anchor his family once again through tragedy. In those admissions, he faced raw humanity, an emotional territory steeper than any mountain his characters had conquered. Yet, even here, he found clarity. Love demanded unwavering presence, and courage was born from the depths of fear. His announcement will resonate as a plea for compassion, urgent action. The day of the announcement arrived with a hush that seemed unnatural. Fans who once awaited Pierce's red carpet appearances now scrolled his channels with bated breath. At exactly 7 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time, a video titled "A Personal Announcement from Pierce" appeared on his official page. His spokesperson had warned of a significant statement, stirring speculation of retirement, a new project, or a joyous milestone. Instead, the world received something far more intimate and urgent. The video opened on a close-up of his steady green eyes, framed by crow's feet bearing witness to decades of laughter and sorrow. A soft piano melody underpinned his voice. He began, "Tonight, I speak to you not as the actor who played James Bond, but as a husband, a father, and a man once tested by life's cruelest trials." He reached into frame and held a single daffodil, its petals quivering like the hand of his beloved beside him. "This is for Keeley," he said, his voice quivering for the first time. "My anchor, whose courage in the face of cancer has reminded me of the true meaning of bravery." He paused, allowing the moment to settle. Viewers around the globe leaned closer to their screens. Then he continued, "I once believed that heroes wore tuxedos and disarmed bombs. Today, I know heroism wears hospital gowns and endures chemo cycles, often without applause." His gaze shifted as though speaking directly to Keeley. "She faces this battle again, and though fear accompanies us, love propels us forward. Tonight, we ask for your help." He unveiled the GoldenEye Project, a global screening initiative named in tribute to his Bond debut and the eye-opening importance of early detection. He described partnerships with community clinics to offer free exams, mobile units to reach rural areas, and an online portal for scheduling appointments. He pledged that all proceeds from his upcoming memoir, The Man Behind the Bond, would fund research grants. "This is our family's plea to yours," he said, voice steady now. "Stand with us. Encourage loved ones to get tested. Share stories. Silence gives cancer strength. Our voices give hope." As he spoke, the screen transitioned to a montage of Keely's journey. Hospital corridors, sunlit waiting rooms, moments of laughter between treatments. Survivors' testimonials flashed in intercut fragments, each a beacon of possibility. Doctors from the Global Cancer Institute detailed how early detection could boost 5-year survival rates from 20% to over 90%. Graphs, once cold and clinical, gained life as stats became stories. Every percentage point representing a woman whose life was saved by a simple exam. Pierce's tone balanced solemnity with determined optimism. His sentences were measured, each word weighted with intention. He contrasted his on-screen feats, parachuting from helicopters, defusing bombs, with the quiet bravery of patients who endured nausea, hair loss, and sleepless nights. Transitions flowed like currents. An ultrasound image dissolved into a childhood photo of Cassandra. A behind-the-scenes clip of a tank chase segued into footage of a mobile clinic rolling into a village. At the climax, he looked directly into the camera. "This may be my final farewell as you know me," he whispered. "But it is my first call to action as a husband and a father determined to save lives." He paused, the silence amplifying his resolve. Then he smiled gently. "The world needs heroes. Tonight, my hero wears your face." The video closed with a simple title card: "The GoldenEye Project, Early Detection Saves Lives." Visit goldeneye.org. No credits, no fanfare, just a call to arms. Within minutes, social media erupted. The hashtag GoldenEye Project trended worldwide. Friends messaged friends, survivors shared their journeys, and healthcare providers reported unprecedented spikes in screening appointments. Major institutions responded. The United Nations Health Office tweeted support, inviting Pierce to address their upcoming global summit. Schools organized screening drives, community centers hosted educational workshops, and local clinics extended weekend hours. In Dublin, the Custom House was bathed in golden light as candles formed a circle at its base. In Los Angeles, the Wellspring Cancer Center dimmed its sign in solidarity. Survivors and relatives posted images of daffodils and gold ribbons, symbolizing the intersection of hope and awareness. Back at his country retreat, Pierce and Keely shared a quiet moment on their porch. He squeezed her hand and recalled a line from their wedding vows. "Through laughter and tears, we are stronger together." She rested her head on his shoulder, tears mingling fear and pride. "You taught me how to be fearless off camera," he whispered. "Now let's teach the world what true courage looks like." She nodded, eyes shining. The GoldenEye Project transformed overnight from a campaign into a movement. Volunteers in backpacks loaded with leaflets trekked through villages. Survivors hosted live streams explaining self-exams and checkups. Pierce's video became a blueprint, an emotional narrative fused with concrete steps, urging communities to rally around prevention and early treatment. As the world mobilized, it became clear that this was more than a personal statement. It was a legacy in motion, a final mission for a man who once fell through the air in a bespoke tuxedo, now standing firmly on the ground, guiding others towards safety. And as the news cycles turned, one truth resonated louder than any headline: love and action could outshine any fear. Even as the lights of global awareness shine brighter around the GoldenEye Project, Pierce knows the true work has only just begun. In quiet moments at dawn, he returns to the simple rituals that have sustained him through every victory and every heartbreak. A walk along a dew-kissed path, his mind replaying Cassandra's laugh, Charlotte's dance, Keely's steadfast embrace. Each step reminds him that life's most profound scenes are unscripted, shaped by small acts of kindness and fierce acts of faith. He thinks of every woman who will now face her own screening with a newfound sense of purpose, and of the daughters and sisters and friends who will stand by her side in waiting rooms once cloaked in silence. At charity galas, he shares the journey behind the headlines, the petrifying moment in the clinic, the courage he witnessed in Keely's eyes, the hope that blossomed when communities rallied behind a shared mission. He speaks not as a distant star on a pedestal, but as a neighbor who understands fear and pride in equal measure. His words carry the echoes of a boy from Drada who once dreamed of belonging, of a young artist finding his voice in charcoal sketches, of a fledgling actor who seized a torch and transformed his life. He tells audiences that every one of us has the capacity to light a spark that dispels darkness, to offer a hand that steadies another's trembling resolve. Meanwhile, survivors and families from every corner of the globe weave the GoldenEye Project into their own narratives of resilience. In Manila, a group of nurses used Pierce's campaign materials to launch door-to-door screening drives in rural barangays, catching cases that might have gone undetected. In Nairobi, local radio stations broadcast snippets of Pierce's video between popular soap operas, turning daily drama into life-saving advice. In Sao Paulo, an impromptu march of hundreds, women wearing golden ribbons, men holding daffodils, snaked through city streets, a living tapestry of solidarity that pushed health officials to expand clinic hours. Everywhere, his call to action grew into a chorus of committed voices. And yet, amidst the global momentum, Pierce remains anchored by his own vulnerability. He attends late-night Zoom calls with families devastated by recent diagnoses, offering personal anecdotes about hope amid despair. He replies to online comments from young women in fear, sharing reassurance and directing them to resources. His inbox overflows with messages, some filled with gratitude, others with raw grief. He reads each one with the reverence of a man who knows that behind every notification lies a real story. A mother waiting for results, a daughter afraid to speak, a friend hoping for a miracle. He carries their words in his heart like talismans, reminders that the mission he chose is a shared burden and a shared blessing. In his own home, the pattern of daily life has shifted once again. Mornings begin with appointments and treatment consultations. Afternoons are reserved for writing chapters of his memoir, The Man Behind the Bond, chronicling not only cinematic adventures, but the soul forges of love and loss. Evenings find him at the piano, coaxing melodies that echo the cadence of a life lived in full spectrum, bold stunts and quiet tears, high-stakes missions and intimate family dinners. Keely, ever his partner in this dance of light and shadow, sits nearby with a journal of her own, documenting the ways their journey has renewed her appreciation for each sunrise they share. Despite uncertainty still lingering on the horizon, Pierce embraces a simple creed: to live on purpose, with compassion as his compass. He hosts community forums where doctors and survivors share data and strategies, ensuring that statistics translate into survival. He collaborates with filmmakers and songwriters to create public service announcements that marry artistry with urgency, recognizing that a well-told story can break through fear more effectively than any medical report. He even mentors young actors and activists, encouraging them to harness public platforms for causes larger than any individual fame. In the final lines of his upcoming memoir, Pierce writes, "Life's richest chapters are written in ink drawn from both joy and sorrow. If I have learned anything, it is that purpose finds us in our most fragile moments and bids us stand taller than fear." These words embody the essence of his farewell. For though he may step back from the public eye to care for Keely and their family, his legacy will endure in the lives he has saved and the hearts he has touched. The GoldenEye Project will continue under the stewardship of those he has inspired, a constellation of advocates spread across continents, each carrying a fragment of his determination. Late one evening, as the sun dips below the horizon, Pierce stands on his porch with Keely by his side. They watch as fireflies dance in the gathering darkness. He turns to her and murmurs, "We've done something extraordinary." She smiles, resting her head on his shoulder, and he adds quietly, "And our story is still being written." In that sacred moment, they share a knowing glance. The final goodbye was never the end, but the beginning of a far grander mission, one defined not by scenes on a screen, but by every life touched in the warm glow of hope.